What is up, everybody? This is JP, and this is Exercise Science Podcast number 5. We are going to continue the podcast with another Top 7 series, and this Top 7 is going to be Top 7 mistakes that beginning trainers make. So if you're a beginning trainer, a personal trainer, a strength coach, whatever you want to consider yourself, and if you're just starting out, these are 7 mistakes that you should avoid, not do, maybe you need to fix. But first, we got to talk about 2 things. All the new subscribers on my YouTube channel that have came from the Actman channel shout out that I got. Again, I appreciate your support. I know there are a lot of you who came from there. I basically doubled my subscribers from the shout out that he gave me. He has a great channel. I really appreciate it. I supported him on Patreon, and then he's definitely supporting me back. So if you're coming from the Actman channel, just know I appreciate your support. If you have any advice, tips, something that you want to see on the channel, please leave a comment down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Second thing is that I also have a Patreon. Again, if you don't know what Patreon is by now, it's just a way. Patreon is a website and a way that you can help support your creators, the people that make content that you love, by funding them, and depending on how much you fund them with, you get specific rewards in return. And my particular Patreon has 7 different reward tiers, so definitely check that out. It's going to be linked down below, and the URL is just patreon.com/JP Fitness. Again, that's patreon.com/JP Fitness. Please take a second and go check that out. I got a lot of cool, unique rewards on there, and it's definitely worth whatever you're willing to pledge and become a patron. All right, on to the episode for today, and that is going to be, like I said, 7 mistakes that beginning trainers make. And again, this can apply to anyone. It's not just personal trainers. If you're training someone in the fitness realm, I guess even like if it's more of like a corrective stuff, a lot of these tips will help you too. So anywhere in the training realm, it could be basically almost any type of training. And we'll kick it off with number 1, and that's everything in your books isn't true. This number 1 and all the next 6 tips, all 7 tips, almost all of them are things that I've done myself in the past, which is why they're on this podcast. They're not things that I see other people do. I think there might be a few of them that I haven't necessarily done, but most of them I've done myself and I've corrected them. And that definitely applies to number 1 is everything in your books being true. And by that, I mean, if you're a personal trainer, you usually go about this, you'll find some type of certification company. You're like, oh, damn, this one's cool. I really like their stuff. I really like the pricing. Or you pick your certification based off of whatever it is you pick it off of. It could be just the pricing alone, or it could be that your friend told you that, that they're a good one. Or maybe it's just that your friend has it. Or maybe you've seen a video, like I have a video on personal trainer certifications and the differences between them. But you're waiting for your book. It comes in the mail, just like I was. You're super excited to start your journey, your career in fitness. And again, this could be with any book, any certification process. You get your book and you read it, and you get certified. You pass your test, and you take everything kind of in that book. You're like, wow, I learned a ton. And you start telling people about what you learned. You talk to your clients about what you learned, because I mean, you're teaching them. You're taking what you learned from that book or whatever package that you got, and you're teaching your clients with it. Now, when I said everything in your books isn't true, is that what I mean is your books are comprised of a lot of knowledge that we learned about the human body. It's done off of, studies using the scientific method to come to conclusions that we say, okay, we can draw conclusions from, setting up a hypothesis and then testing it. So your book is, it's basically a culmination of a bunch of studies and things that we've directly seen, maybe, in laboratories, looking at muscle tissue, doing tests on subjects. So yeah, like I said, using the scientific method. So you just have to remember that your book is a culmination of these studies, that have been put into a book, and that you're reading the book and you're saying, okay, well, these are things that, I'm going to start telling my clients, or I'm going to, basically I learned. But you need to stop taking them for like the gold standard or the gold fact. And I know this is because when I got my personal trainer certification, right when I got it, you read it, and of course, and I'm not saying all the stuff in your books are wrong, but you read it and you think, wow, okay, well, this is true. But then, it starts off with you saying that, or maybe you see somewhere that something in your book is kind of been contested somewhere else. Maybe you've seen a YouTube video, or YouTube's, again, not the best place because there's a lot of bullshit on there, but it's whatever. But maybe you've seen a YouTube video. Maybe you read an article on a really good website that you thought seemed pretty good. you read it, and then you're like, okay, well, this is contradicting or it's contesting what my book says. Well, my book's a textbook, it must be right. Usually, I'm not gonna lie, usually that's the case. The book is right because a lot of people can be, for lack of a better term, full of shit. I mean, they don't. A lot of people make claims when it's not backed up by any evidence. So that fact that people make these claims is kind of hard to. It kind of almost like it's almost like a tug of war in your head. And what sucks is it could be someone that you maybe have looked up to on YouTube or whatever it is. You thought all their other stuff was good, but then the second it goes against your book, you're like, okay, well, what do I do here? Are they right? Are my book right? Which one's right? I don't know. They're making sense, but my book makes sense. And that's the thing is, I guess this point just comes down to is don't take everything that your book says for an absolute certainty or absolute fact. Like I said earlier, your book is just made up of studies and things that have been tested using the scientific method to see if that they're true. So new studies come out all the time. I'm talking about on a monthly basis, daily basis, weekly basis. Thousands come out a year that come across new evidence and facts that maybe change old thoughts and ideas and things that we thought before. Here, I'll give you a big one, and this is a perfect example of this whole point kind of summed up to one. A lot of people these days, and if you got your certification and you're reading this, or maybe you plan to get your certification might talk about that typical bodybuilding range, which is the 8 to 12 repetitions, and how that really short rest periods, 30 seconds to 90 seconds, somewhere in that realm, a lot of volume, which again, that's true, and then compound movements, and basically that kind of combination of rest periods, high volume, compound movements, 8 to 12 repetitions, that type of format for a workout is going to give you the most results when you're trying to gain muscle, due to the anabolic hormone response your body gets post-workout. While working out can and will release a lot of hormones, anabolic hormones, stress hormones like cortisol too, that your book's telling you that's the reason why your body's getting muscle. What I've learned after reading it in my book, because that's what I read it in my book, it made sense, so that's, logically I thought about it, and that's what I thought was right. But the more I read that and reading different studies, there was a study done by Brad Schoenfield where they took a group who did a powerlifting style, heavier weights with lower repetitions in that range, in the lower repetition range, longer rest periods, versus a typical bodybuilding style with shorter rest periods, the 8 to 12 rep range, and they controlled volume for both groups. So one group did not have more volume. They both gained the same amount of muscle mass over the same period of time, but due to specificity, the powerlifting group actually got stronger. So they both gained muscle, and the powerlifting group got stronger. And this kind of goes against everything that I was taught in the book that I got certified through. And again, it doesn't make the certification bad. It's just that the thing is, when you get your book, I'm not saying question every single sentence. If it makes sense, it's probably true, but it'll lead to a different point later that you might find new evidence that counteracts what you're saying or contradicts the claim that you're making. And if it's right, it's right. I mean, accept what's right, accept what logically makes more sense. So basically, I'm just saying, don't take your books for an absolute certainty. We come out with new information all the time, and yes, a good book is a great place to start. I'm not saying that books are bad, but I mean, if your book says this, it was made 10 years ago, and then in the last 5 years, there have been 3 different very sound studies that have came out that contradict the claim that your book said. I'm pretty sure your book's wrong in that aspect. That could be a case or a scenario that you come across. Don't be afraid to kind of throw that out. But that's what I'm just trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is that not everything in your book is going to be solid facts. So when you get your book, don't spew it out like as if it's absolute, like it's just known. Usually, like I said, things in books are just things that have been proven through the scientific method. It doesn't mean that we won't come across a better conclusion later on with maybe better tests, better studies, better equipment. The way things are set up might be better. So overall, I wouldn't say take it for a grain of salt. Again, a lot of stuff in books is legit, but just don't take it for 100% fact, and be ready to change if you hear something better. And that doesn't really lead into the next point, but the second tip that I'm going to give to new trainers or anyone coming up is learn from multiple people. And this will help with point number 1 too, was learn from multiple people. Now you may say, well, I'm not learning from anyone directly right now. That's not exactly what I mean. I mean, if you watch YouTube videos, or you go on websites, or if you are getting shadowed by another trainer, don't just learn from one person. And I guess you can apply this to books too. Don't learn from one people. And this isn't really a wishy-washy tip. If you stop right now, pause this podcast, and then write down all the websites or people that you learn a lot from, not just a little bit. I mean, you can learn a little bit from people too, but write down all the people that you tend to like learn a lot. Like you hear them say something, and you're like, oh, I'm going to use that. Or you follow them on a daily basis. If they have a blog, or if they have a podcast like me, if you follow them, write down all the different people that you follow. And if it's like under 5, that's probably too low in my opinion. It's good to get different perspectives on things and learn from different people. Learning from one person, it limits the amount of knowledge that you can get, because one person only has one perspective. They see things from one angle. They see things from one group of people that they hang around. And then it kind of promotes a little bit maybe of a biased thinking. If you're learning from just one person, you may tend to it's hard to believe that you're gonna not take their word for absolute. You're not gonna take their word for absolute. So I would definitely learn from multiple people. Try to keep a lot of, just try to keep your knowledge base pretty wide. Don't learn from one book. Have multiple books. If you're watching YouTube, or if you go on websites, don't learn from just one. Because again, you don't want that to lead to any biased thinking, and you don't want it to lead to you kind of getting like, okay, what is the limited knowledge? I mean, like some people have different training methods. You got to think an entirely different person is going to come up with weird and unique ways to do things. And if you talk to 10, 15 different people, or not even talking to them, if you read their stuff, watch their videos, things like that, you're going to learn a lot of unique things that you can pull from each person. And ultimately, that's what we are when we learn things. You are just a culmination of everything that you learn. If you're going to school, because I am right now, I'm in college. If you're going to school, then all you are is kind of like a culmination of little bits of pieces that you come across. So if you're only going to 1 or 2 or 3 people, and you look at the same people for information for years, you're not really going to be getting any unique different tips from different people. So that is a good tip that I would suggest you really follow. All right, going into our third tip for all you beginning trainers or people just starting out, is start your profile early. And by profile, I mean everything related to you when it comes to your world of fitness. A lot of people wait until they get certified to be able to just go out in the world and start charging people, or work for a gym. And in my opinion, to me, that seems like a boring ass way to sit there and go about becoming a trainer. Oh, get certified. Oh, go to LA Fitness. Oh, go to 24-hour fitness. Go to your local fitness gym and train people. Hey, if that's what you want to do, it's personal opinion. I'm not saying I'm not trying to talk down or talk bad about that. In my opinion, I think that's boring. I think that route's pretty plain. I mean, if you think that's cool and that's just what you want to do, is train people, chill at a gym, that's fine. But the point that I'm trying to make is start your profile early, in the sense of, the second you plan on wanting to be a trainer, even before you get certified, I would recommend starting up a social media account based off your training, being a trainer, a personal trainer. That's what I did. Build up your rep for everyone around you, for everyone that you know. Get everyone to know that you are the trainer. Kind of mention it, like with your social media, add people, make a Facebook page, if you like Twitter, make a Twitter page, tweet about fitness stuff, do YouTube, do podcasts like I do. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do these days that'll help build up your overall training profile. Get a profile on bodybuilding.com, help people there. I mean, that's just a website that I threw out. I wouldn't really recommend going there. I mean, some of the people there could be pretty cancerous, but anyways, back on topic. But I would definitely start your body of you being a trainer early on. The second you figure out you want to do this, start up something. I would start, like I said, a podcast, Facebook, something. This will help later on when you decide to want to get clients. Let's just say it takes you 6 months to get certified, and then you spend another 6 months building up a profile, adding people, getting people to know, not charging yet, just doing a bunch of stuff before you get charged, maybe doing people favors, giving them free workout days, just one day, getting your name out there so that when you do actually go out and charge, you have something to say for yourself. This industry is so like saturated and so filled up with people wanting to be the trainer, the local trainer, and honestly, I'm so sick and tired of seeing the same. And if you're sensitive to language, I'm gonna cuss on this podcast, just so you know, but it's so bullshit. I'm tired of seeing uh, it's just I can't. My brain feels like it's gonna explode. I mean, I see the same thing all the time. Someone becomes a trainer, and what do you know? They want to. I don't. It's hard to explain. They do the same exercises that I've seen hundreds of times, the same spin on everything. And it's nothing new. It's nothing new. You got to think there's 100 different guys probably in your city, within your or your county, that are doing the same thing that you are. That they also think that they're a trainer. You have to do better than that. You have to be better than them. If not, you're not going to get any clients. You're not going to make it in this industry. This industry is pretty ruthless. So you need to start your profile early. If you start early and build on a foundation for that, build a Facebook. For example, I'll give you a good one. Make a Facebook page based off your fitness. Come up with a unique name. Then 3 times a week, 5 times a week, once a day if you want to, any of those, do that. Come put a daily tip or something, a tip, or 3 times a week, a tip, maybe an in-depth post on fitness, something that you learned. Talk to people. Do that for 6 months while you're getting your certification. Talk to different people. Then eventually people will know, okay, this is the guy that trains people. He's smart. People can start putting an idea of who you are in their head. Oh, that's the guy that knows a lot, or that's the guy that works out, or that's the guy that works hard. But if you just don't do anything, you don't start your profile, and you just maybe tell a few people here and there that you're going to be a personal trainer, just 2 or 3 of your friends, then you get certified and you're like, well, here you go. I'm going to go and get clients. It's going to be a million times harder for you. You need to take this as something serious. So you need to start your profile early, build your profile. It should be something that you do. It just should be you, is what it is. It shouldn't be just something I know I guess just do for money. I mean, again, if that's your goal in life, cool. I mean, it's not my goal in life by far. I mean, I just want to be the best personal trainer, strength coach, whatever you want to call it, that I can be. But again, if you don't start your profile early, it's going to make it 100 times harder on you. Just start something, build a base, a fan base, people who like your content, but write a blog, something. All right, and that'll go on to tip number 4 for you beginning trainers out there, and that is understand how to read studies and understand where to get studies, where to find studies, maybe subscribe to a research review, any of that. The reason why is because with the fitness industry, with it being oversaturated, with all the shit YouTube trainers out there, and again, there are a lot of people on YouTube that I do like. I'm not saying that there aren't, but just and I say it in a more negative way, I guess, because I'm not talking about the people who are just wrong and they're trying to help people and be a good trainer. I'm talking about the people who don't care and they just spout hearsay and they spout the most bro science stuff that you're going to hear. But you need to understand how to read studies, because when you can understand how to read a study, I'm not saying that you need, I mean, if you want to, it'd be good. The more you know about how to read a study, the better. But I'm not saying that you have to sit there and be able to break down every single type of study, how to set up a study, how to do it yourself. Not that, I mean, that'll be good if you did, but you don't have to. Just learn the basics. I mean, learn, like, for example, you could learn, for the study that I mentioned earlier with the Brad Schoenfield. If he didn't control volume between the two groups and he said, oh, look, the 8 to 12 group, bodybuilding group, gain more muscle, but let's just say you put the powerlifting group with low repetitions, heavy weight, longer rest periods. You put the bodybuilding group 8 to 12 reps. You put them shorter rest periods, and then maybe more time under tension, because that's what a lot of bodybuilders say. And you did that, and you just gave them workouts to do, and you didn't account for volume. And then one group, let's just say the bodybuilding group, gain more muscle, and someone doesn't know how to read a study, you can give them that study and they can say, wow, look, this bodybuilding group gained more muscle. This is the right way to go. But that might not be the direct factor of why they gain more muscle. Obviously, we just went over that. It's the fact that they did more volume. Of course, if you do more volume is like the main key factor when it comes to seeing adaptations. There's a lot of other things that play a role, but volume is the main one. So and that if you don't know how to read a study and you kind of just see a bunch of text and it's kind of like gibberish to you, and then you see the end result and it says, oh, the conclusion that we drew was this, but it not just because it's in a study does not mean it's right. You need to be able to evaluate a study, and it's not easy. Sometimes there's tricky ways that people and places and organizations go about things. Nutrition is really bad about that, because in nutrition you tend to see a lot of companies getting paid off to maybe make a study, cherry pick things, and put a study so that it says that their product is legit. And if you are a trainer, you should definitely know what I'm talking about here, because you've probably seen it on every single pre-workout formula in existence. Oh, ours has been scientifically backed up. It's bullshit. Bullshit. That's not, they throw words in there to get people to buy it. That's exactly what I mean though. But if you have no idea how to read a study, you may get suckered into that. So just learn how to read the studies. Know that not all studies are created equal. They're not set up to be equal. Some people just don't know how to do it properly. Some people do it improperly, on purpose for wrong reasons, money, and then sometimes some people do it right, and those are the studies that you should follow. So learn how to read them. Definitely do read them, and that'll help you be able to analyze whether or not someone's right and whether or not you have correct information. All right, tip number 5, and mistakes that you need to avoid, things you need to avoid, things you need to do are, don't be so stubborn that you're not willing to change your viewpoints. I've seen this a lot too. Just like with the how to read studies, one, you need to learn how to do that because a lot of people don't. But be willing to change your viewpoints, because a lot of the times you'll see someone, and again, I've done this before. And again, eventually you get older and you realize that you're not always right. And this ties definitely into number 1 with everything in your books isn't true. Don't believe everything in your books necessarily. Don't take it as gold. Is that you need to be willing to change your viewpoints. Because if you, let's go with the same example we've been using, which is the bodybuilding one. If you think that bodybuilding 8 to 12 rep, short rest periods, higher time under tension, is going to give you the best results with gaining muscle. If you're so hooked on that and you want to be right, that if someone tells you what I said, well, it's not, that's not gonna, there's nothing magic about the 8 to 12 rep period, 8 to 12 rep range. There's nothing specifically good about that rep range. There's no magic in there. It's just the fact that you're able to properly progress from that 8 to 12 reps, which just lets you get really good volume in, that lets you gain muscle. I'm not saying that 8 to 12 reps is wrong, but it's not necessarily the specific rep range you need to train in. Neither is super short rest periods either. But if you tell someone that, and then they are so stuck on this bodybuilding setup that they think that's the best way, they're gonna sit there and not listen to you, and that's not good. Hopefully, that after listening to this point, just be willing to, if someone says something that's wrong or against of what you think, don't just sit there and write it off. Take a step back, say, okay, well, why are they saying this? What's the logic behind it? Do they have any evidence to support their claim? If they don't, and there's no logic behind it, don't be afraid to say that you're right. Which I'll go straight into tip number 6, and because it kind of ties into tip number 5 really quickly. And another mistake that people make, again, this is a mistake, is that people don't question enough. They don't question enough, and they aren't afraid to say that they're right when they are right, which kind of is the opposite of number 5. But that's the thing, is it's kind of in that middle ground. I see it all the time, is some people will, and again, a lot of these tie in together, as you can tell by now, but for example, if you have someone that you follow all the time that has taught you everything, and they're kind of like the person you shadow, and let's just say you messed up on tip number 2 that I gave, was learn from multiple people. Let's just say you're only learning from one person, and you're kind of, because they're telling you this, you kind of take what they're saying for an absolute. Whatever they say is what it is and how it goes, and you don't question them. And maybe you think that you're right, but because, oh no, he's been doing this for 30 years, they use some kind of blatant description of why they're right, not actually any direct evidence to support their claim. They say, well, I've been training for 20 years, I'm right. That's not, I don't give a shit how long you've been training. If you're training people, or you've been training for 20 or 30 years, but you still don't have any evidence to back up your claim's bullshit. Get rid of it, change it, pick the right claim, or say you don't know. There's a lot of humbleness in saying you don't know. So with tip number 5 and 6, be willing to change viewpoints when you're wrong, because if you're wrong, that's it, you're done. Don't let that kind of, don't let your pride get in the way of you changing your viewpoints, or just say you don't know. Don't be afraid to say you don't know. And like I said, the mistake number 6 that I see is that people don't question enough. If it's one book that they follow, and that goes right into tip number 1 too. It's funny how these all connect, is that they don't question books. They don't question people that they learn from. They take everything that they say. And you can see this on YouTube a ton. It just drives me nuts. And I'm not saying everyone's wrong. There's a lot of good channels. I'm not saying I'm right in everything. I've been wrong. A lot of these, like I said, are mistakes that I've made. I'm willing to say that, But for example, there's big channels on YouTube. We all know that. Fitness is big on YouTube. We all know that. There will be people who will follow these channels and they've been following them for years and they love their content. They'll be drooling over the fact that they put another video. And they don't actually drool, but whatever. But they're watching their video and they're thinking, okay, well, oh, this is really cool, I'll use this. Then you have the one person in the comment section who logically, and not in a mean way, but logically kind of says what they said was wrong. And then you get like 30 people that jumps on this guy for saying, oh, well, blah blah blah. You're not very strong. You don't know this. You don't know that. You don't have a channel. This guy's been doing a long. It doesn't matter. Why is everyone evaluating whether something someone says is right based off of anything but the evidence that supports their claim and the logic behind it? When you evaluate whether or not someone's claim is true or correct, that's all you should evaluate it off of, is the evidence that they have to support their claim and the logic behind it. Those two things. If what they're saying isn't logical, like, oh, if someone says, if you want to get really strong in squats, you gotta sit down and work on your grip strength all day, squeeze things, and then your squat will go up if you just sit there, versus doing regular squats. If they said, oh, this is better than doing regular squats, you just sit down and squeeze things. There's no logic behind that. I mean, you can obviously tell that's wrong. That's an exaggeration. Like I said, that's an exaggeration. There's going to be things that are a little bit more controversial. They're a little bit harder to tell whether or not it's right or wrong. So don't just jump on someone if they're saying that your favorite YouTuber is wrong on something. Again, I've done that before. Definitely. And over the years, I learned to be humble, and I learned that this industry, you need to change positions a lot because you're wrong. And if you're doing the same thing that you were doing 10 years ago, you're definitely wrong. I mean, you're telling me that that the knowledge base of fitness has not updated. It updates all the time. And if you're not updating with it, then you're stuck in some fitness stone age of what you think is correct and what's not, and what's right. So again, those 2 points are mistakes that people make to 5 and 6, which were, again, be willing to change points. Don't be stubborn. And then don't be afraid to question everything. And when you are right, make sure you can back that up. All right, our last and final mistake that beginners tend to make, and again, these are kind of like mistakes and tips combined, because it's things that you don't do or things that you should do, basically the opposite. But mistakes that I see is that if you're a trainer yourself, and this can go both ways, do not think that you're smarter than someone or you know more than someone because you're stronger than them. There's a million things that goes into being strong, like muscle composition, just genetics, how effective someone's nervous system is, training age, the torque that our muscles able to produce, just overall anatomy. For example, if someone's more built to squat, they have shorter femurs, they could be more upright during a squat. Their muscles are attached to their bones at specific points that let them produce more torque versus someone that doesn't. Let's just say that genetically they just have bigger muscle fibers than someone that doesn't, and they're able to get bigger muscle fibers than someone that is. And then let's just say this person who can't squat good doesn't have those things, and let's just say on top of that the weaker person, let's just say they work a little bit harder, but that little bit of working harder isn't gonna make up all those deficits that they have genetically. So just because you're stronger than someone doesn't necessarily mean that they're right or you're right on whatever you're saying. I see this all the time, and again, you may see it too in YouTube comments, because I go on YouTube a lot. But this could be in blogs, this could be on Facebook. Oh, he's way stronger than you. He could squat 3 times what you can squat, so what he's doing must be right. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. A lot of these people who are strong, they have good work ethics. They work with good coaches, things like that. They don't necessarily know everything what they're talking about. Now, it's the opposite too. I'm not saying that because maybe they don't have a degree that they don't know what they're talking about. Experience is a lot. If someone does something a lot, they can usually give someone tips or talk about it, and they usually know a lot about it because they actually do it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that what they say is right. Strength is not it's not a determinant for being correct. What I said earlier is it's logic, and if that person has evidence to back up their claim. If they don't, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, they could be right or wrong. That's not a determinant of it. So again, if you see someone doing that, again, I wouldn't even waste time to sit there and talk to them, or maybe just let them know that's not really the way to go about evaluating information. Is strength. Oh, you're stronger. If you really did understand, like I said, if you did understand how being strong or gaining muscle works, then you understand that there's a lot of things that play into you being strong, and a lot of those are things that you cannot change. A lot of them you can, but a lot of them you can't either. So if you can't change a lot of what it is to be strong or what it is to gain muscle just due to genetics, muscle attachments, things like that, then how are you going to sit there and say that, oh, because I'm stronger than you, I know more than you, or because you're stronger than me, you know more than me? Again, just base whether or not something someone says is correct on if it's logical and if it has evidence behind it. All right, those are the 7 mistakes and 7 tips, any way you want to take them. 7 mistakes that I hope that you, as a personal trainer, a beginning strength coach, someone that's joining this fitness industry, does not make. Again, I hope that can help you become a better person overall. Again, please check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/JP Fitness. Again, that's patreon.com/JP Fitness. I got a lot of cool and unique rewards there for anyone who wants to become a patron. I will also link it down below. And again, thank you for all the Ackman fans that are coming over for the Ackman channel. But until next time, see ya.